I would like to tell you a rather tragic story about the glamorous lady that you can see. She is Mafalda of Savoia, a princess of Italy, who met her tragic end at the hands of the Nazis in a concentration camp. She was born in 1902 to King Victor Emmanuel III and Queen Eleanor. You can see her here with Queen Eleanor, her mother, and her sibling, Princess Yolanda. Her mother, Queen Eleanor of Montenegro, passed on her passion of the arts, and the two grew extraordinarily close to one another. In fact, during the First World War, she accompanied her mother on many visits to war hospitals around Italy. On the 23rd of September 1925, at Racconigi Castle, in the presence of the entire royal family, Mafalda married Prince Philip of Hesse, Landgrave of Hesse-Castile, the grandson of the German Emperor Frederick III, whom she had met at a garden party earlier that year. Prince Philip and his brother Christoph were unfortunately members of the Nazi Party, as were many Germans back then. Although the couple had completely different political views, the marriage was fruitful with 4 children. However, tensions grew in the 1930s as the Italian fascist state began to become outshone by the German fascist state led by a certain Austrian painter. Prince Philip's marriage to Princess Mafalda put him in a position to act as an intermediary between the Nazis and, of course, the Italian government. In fact, on one evening of the 26th of March 1935, Mafalda was present at an informal diplomatic dinner given by Adolf Hitler in the Reich, President's house in Germany, where she sat next to the English Prime Minister, Anthony Eden. Although it was absolutely clear that Mafalda had opposing thoughts to her husband, because Mr. Hitler hated her, believing, rightfully so if I may add, that she was working against the German war effort. Hitler called her the blackest carrion in the entire Italian royal house. Hitler's propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels also hated her, calling her the biggest bitch in the entire Italian royal house. By 1943, Mafalda had convinced her husband to attempt to leave the Nazi Party, and the relationship between Prince Philip and Hitler began to sour. He was not allowed to resign, however, even though he reportedly provided passports for Jews to allow them to flee to Holland. That same year, 1943, Mafalda went to Bulgaria to see her sister, Joanna of Savoy, the Queen of Bulgaria, because her husband, Tsar Boris III, had just passed away. Whilst she was there, Italy, through the guidance of her brother, Crown Prince Umberto, had changed sides in the war, kicking out Mussolini and joining the Allied powers. So Mafalda's husband, Prince Philip, was placed under house arrest, but thankfully her children were sent to the Vatican for their protection. When she went back to Italy to see them, she received an urgent phone call from the German embassy saying that they had a message from her husband. She went to the embassy, but on her arrival, Mafalda was arrested. Princess Mafalda was transported to Munich for questioning, and then on to Berlin, and finally to Birkenwald concentration camp, where she was given a new name, but the Italian prisoners in the camp recognized her and stated that she shared her food with other prisoners. On the 24th of August 1944, the Allied powers bombed the ammunition factory within the camp. Some 400 prisoners were killed, and Mafalda was seriously wounded. She had been housed in a unit just adjacent to the bombed factory, and when the attack occurred, she was buried up to her neck in debris and suffered severe burns on her arm. As the fellow Italian prisoners began to remove the rubble, she said, "I'm dying. Remember me not as your princess, but as your Italian sister." The conditions within the camp caused her arm to become infected, and the medical staff amputated it. She bled profusely during the operation and never regained consciousness. She died at the age of 41 during the night of the 26th or 27th of August 1944. Her body was then reburied after the war at Kronberg Castle in Hesse. The Italian royal family look on the princess with great sadness, with loss at the most loving and glamorous person of her age. In fact, when I met her granddaughter, Princess Eleanor of Hesse, she told me that the Hesse family are proud of the fact that she stood up for what is right and went against fascism and dictatorships. Thank you so much for watching. The more you know.